All right. Hello. Hey, I know this background is not perfect. Hey, I just realized, look at that. Think and Grow Rich hanging off the ledge right there. Maybe that's a sign I should pick that one up. But very excited to do another daily video. Today is Wednesday, March 13th. I've even got my special BVM shirt. This was kind of a cool thing when the pop-up store popped up. I went and snagged it. So we've got some cool merch out there once in a while. But as I was looking at my background going, gosh, it's not what I would usually like for a background for a video, for anything, for even a Zoom meeting. If I was meeting with one of you right now, this wouldn't be ideal. And then I thought, it's a good representation for the way life is sometimes. I moved recently. There's work to be done. The office isn't in perfect order, but it's not going to stop me. I'm not going to sit and try to make every single book and piece of art and everything perfect. Sorry. In fact, I'm going to grab something here real quick, kind of slowly do this. I could pause off and start the video over, but I'm going to keep talking the whole time because I want to grab this. It's really some neat stuff. But this idea of like waiting for perfect is something that's been floating around a little bit. Here, I got one. I'm going to show you in a minute. Pretty exciting stuff. And so I ended up going, hey, this is a great setting, right? So I'll just share that with you. We got to move forward. We got to take action, whether things look flawless or perfect or not. It's obviously better when we can bring order. The more order we can bring to things, the better they are. So today's thoughts from talking to a few folks, one of the trending or emerging conversations is really about giving things their proper space, and getting your head right is always a great topic for our business or for being a person. And so, the question comes up, how do I get my head right? When we talk about get your head right, guard the culture, and get 3 S's, and we've done some deep dives on the culture at our division meetings last week. I think it's always important to talk and keep that in mind. I was in a meeting with Kevin O'Brien, and he was really going deep on some of the cultural aspects of what we have as an organization, and it's definitely fuel. But let's talk about this getting your head right thing. So I thought of a couple of things. One, when I think of getting my head right, or just getting the head right in general, in terms of what does that mean? How do we do it? It's probably an infinite topic, and it's going to vary a bit for every single person that thinks about this or watches this, or from person to person. There are some variables. Maybe one person says, hey, a cup of coffee is part of my equation for getting my head right in the morning. Another person may say, hey, I need to walk the dogs in the morning. I need to be up early, jumping out of bed. Walking the dogs is my thing. It's part of my equation. But there are other components too. So those are maybe some of the variables. I will talk about what those have in common. For example, consistency in a cup of coffee, that can be a part of a routine. And when we have consistency, there's more order, and order and ritual brings peace and peace of mind as well. The walking the dogs could be tied to movement. There's a hot book out there called the Miracle Morning. It talks a bit about these things that you can weave into, I think around 30 minutes into your morning, that can create a very special life. And that's fantastic. Hal Elrod, I think, used to work with some of the old school BVMers. Hal Elrod, the guy that wrote the book, he was a Cutco guy from a long time ago. So pretty interesting stuff, how big that has gone. But I think there are some other components too that they're important. They can help us keep our head right. And the first one I came up with is a detailed plan. And the details are interesting because obviously life happens, things come at you, and the details may shift or emerge. But when I sit down, I want to be as clear as possible in my detailed plan. And the reason is it eliminates a lot of the ambiguity. When I have a detailed plan of action, I know what I'm set to do every day. Some of you may even find you don't have to use an alarm clock anymore when you have this purpose that you go to sleep with, knowing tomorrow's a new day. I'm going to bring X, Y, Z to the day. Boom, fly to bed, no alarm clock. Pretty exciting place to be. Maybe not everybody, maybe a select few, but having that detailed plan is very, very important. And then sticking to the plan, right? Maybe looking at the plan several times throughout the day or the week to stay on track with it. The other thing is, I mentioned this thing of life happens, and I was talking to a publisher, and I thought about a time. It's a pretty weird story, pretty strange, but a time when my dog, there's no great way to say this, what was killed, and that's just what it was. I found out early in the morning, and I had a day full of appointments. I had, finished getting my 3 S's, which is nice to get that done super early. And it was that gap between getting the S's and going out and doing the appointments that I'd leave some time there. usually 8:30 to 9:30, and then first appointment 10:30, those kind of things. But when I found out, it was a big surprise. My dog had been living with my grandmother and some other things, but a lot of emotion tied to that, right? This dog that I had as a teenager, spent a lot of time with, many years with, and wasn't expected. It's a great thing to consider. Things come at us that are maybe unexpected sometimes, or uh, can provoke certain emotions. And so the second thing, first one I thought of was a detailed plan. The second thing is to give things space. Now, what's really interesting is we can get lost in an emotional feeling if we don't recognize or acknowledge it, and also give ourselves the proper amount of time. And the proper amount of time could be different for everybody to accept those emotions and feel them, right? So what I did in this particular scenario or situation, I think is super helpful. It's probably in some books or some literature out there in terms of research. Was I said I have a list of responsibilities to complete today. I've committed to other people. I've committed to myself to do X, Y, Z things. This is unexpected. And I just said, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes, exactly 10 minutes, and, feel all the emotions, work through it, let the thoughts kind of roll, ignore everything else, just come face to face with this feeling. And then I'm going to, head to my appointment. So I did that. A lot of different emotions come up. It's part of emotional intelligence, being able to recognize the layer of emotions that can be tied to any particular one event that happens. And then, went about the day, did what I had to do. And at the end of the day, that's when I gave myself the space to talk to others about this thing, the event with the dog, just to really give it the attention it deserved, right? It didn't need to have interrupted partial attention throughout the day. I gave it its full attention at night. So I shared that because I think that's really important when it comes to keeping our head right, or getting our head right, is giving things the proper space and time and attention they deserve when it makes sense, right? Obviously, I'm a huge fan of honoring our commitments to ourselves and others. That's really big. So there you go. Third thing is attitude and mood, right? Sitting in this meeting with TKO, he said, your attitude and your action is controllable. I'm like, oh, I really love that. Most of the time, it's not something that's spoken about, that we actually have full control over our attitude towards things. It's something that we can adjust or shift like a knob just by challenging the way we're thinking about something. So that's pretty cool. I think a big part of getting our head right is what does our attitude look like? How are we approaching certain things? Our mood. Do we realize that we actually can change that? Very, very powerful stuff. Plugging into the conference calls, great way to get a boost in the conviction cup and get our head right, absorbing some of that successful language, which is great. The fourth one's kind of interesting too, but I think it's a little bit silly, but it's just smile. It's so crazy what a smile can do. It can go a long way. We say smile and dial, just smiling, sitting across from a sponsor, just in this state, really physiologically actually tricks your body into feeling better. I'm okay with tricking my body into feeling better. Why not? Because then I feel better. Hey, go for it. So smile. And then I also think that, what is this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the list? It might be 5, might be 6. I think we're at 5. Would be lift the heaviest objects first. Again, there's a ton of literature and ideas and philosophy about this. There's a concept I've heard of called eat the frog. Maybe some of you have read that or heard of it. I believe the idea is if you have a dinner plate with all these delicious things on it, but there's a frog and you have to eat it all, eat the frog first, everything else tastes better. What is that in our business? Get our 3 yeses first. The rest of the stuff works out throughout the day, especially if we have a plan and some other things. So we eat that frog first and knock it out of the park. And that's really what's happening right now in Desert in LA, which is really, really fantastic. LA, as of Monday, it already like 2.5 times their growth for the same time period last year. That's pretty big. Desert obviously finished number 1 last year in growth mode all week again. So really great things happening on these teams. And that's a result of lifting the heavy object, that momentum, that focus, setting new first appointments on a daily basis, making that the main thing, super huge. And then the last thing getting our head right is that I think sometimes we need to vent, right? Now, venting is important in terms of how we think about it, right? There's a difference between complaining and venting, and I'm maybe not the expert on this, but I think it's an important component of getting our head right, is being able to have a generative discussion there. That's how I'll say it is if we have some stuff built up, we need to find a good outlet for that, right? Maybe sometimes it's not even a verbal thing. It's uh, maybe you're into like a hot yoga or something, right? Whatever that is, but make sure we have outlets for our energy. Helps keep us productive, helps keep our head right. There's a lot of variations to that in terms of the expending the energy that builds up. A lot of positive, good energy coming from, working on the productive components. But there you go. Some thoughts on getting our head right. We are really rocking it, team, and very excited to be working with each and every one of you. Keep it up. As always, if you have comments, feedback, thoughts, you can text, email, call me. I have a couple more calls to make here real quick, actually, too. As we are gearing towards really the end or the latter part of the day. So I hope you enjoyed. Have fun, and let me know what you'd like to see next. Thanks.